evening, heroes and heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, in which we continue making Cinera's config file stuff. Once again, it's saying no identifier under cursor for some reason. That was upon pressing Control, Super, and 5. Yeah. Control 5 does it. No help for Control 5. Can I just do that? No. Who cares? Doesn't matter. So yesterday we started doing the actual format. Started working through it. And I uploaded the video to YouTube. And there's a message, a comment from a chap called Richard, and the comment was, "It looks confusing." It was something like that. It looks confusing, and I haven't replied to the comment, but I can totally see what Richard's talking about. I mean, it's possible that this stuff just doesn't need to exist, maybe. I think at least we need some sort of a way to delimit projects, you know, so that you can at least produce this sort of a thing here, right? So you can have like book club, and you can have computer organization and design. Oops. You can have computer organization and design. And I think we do need a way so we can actually produce this sort of a string. The reason being is that it's something that I wanted anyway, right? So I think we do need at least that. As for this whole list stuff, I mean, maybe that can just disappear, and rather than having lists, we just somehow say, like, I don't know, like we just use, rather than it being a list, we sort of say, you know, we kind of specify it piecemeal, I guess. So we still have the idea of a delimiter, or to put it another way, we have an idea of a prefix and a suffix. Is that true? No, actually, that's not true, is it? What I was driving at is like, forever. Good evening, dude. How's it going? I was sort of wondering, could you produce this sort of stuff here without having the idea of a list, right? So you sort of construct, you sort of say, for this guy, this guy has the suffix of this. This person has a suffix of this, and then this guy has a suffix of this. If it's not the last one in the list. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you need some sort of logic. So, I mean, I think if you do want to be able to produce this sort of stuff, maybe you just do need some sort of list. I'm good too. It's been pretty nippy here. It's been really cold, but it's okay today actually. I'm kind of quite comfortable. not exactly sure why. Maybe it's just maybe the temperature's just a bit more clement. So yeah, maybe we do just need, you know, maybe there's no way around it. Like if you do want to be able to produce this sort of a structure, you just do need the idea of a list. So then the question is, do we allow this sort of thing? And at the moment it's sort of an academic question. In the sense that we don't actually have a working example that we want to be producing. Not at all to imply that academia or an academic example is not real, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, it is confusing. Maybe I could, I don't know, sort of somehow put some constraints on it that make it less confusing, I guess. Make it a bit more easy to write that sort of stuff. That's possibly something to consider. Is there even a consideration note for this? There isn't. Let's do a consideration note. Title lists. Yeah, leave that as a consideration. I think also late last night after the stream, I sort of spotted that one of these things were actually a bit inconsistent. I think. Yeah, right. So the title suffix of these people here. So book club has the title suffix of a colon followed by a space. Computer organisation and design will also inherit that title suffix. But if you see here, when you come to the end of computer organisation and design, it doesn't get the title suffix. I mean, maybe the rationalisation for that is just this thing starts off. Oh no, sorry. Computer organisation design is the thing that we're talking about. So this is the thing that will have the suffix, right? When we get down here, computer organisation design will still have the suffix set to this, right? So really, it should end up producing this. In which case, we should be sort of saying, we should be turning off the suffix. And I mean, you know, like the commenter was saying, like Richard was saying, it's just kind of confusing, and yeah, it kind of is. I mean, also, I guess, like, you could even sort of say that it's, you change the title suffix to be this, and then the title list prefix will be this, right? So then that's kind of, it kind of mirrors that. I mean, it doesn't make it really doesn't make any difference actually, because if you instantiate a list here, you know, it's always going to be there. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, as to how you actually do that. So yeah, it's kind of like it's a toss-up between sort of simplicity and complexity, confusion, and expressibility, kind of, I guess. What key switches do I like best? So dude, this is the first mechanical keyboard that I've ever used. It's the first and only one, from memory. I mean, maybe when I was younger, maybe one of the really, the first keyboards that I used, maybe those had mechanical switches. But I was just a kid at the time, and I can't really remember, having a having a feel for like a keyboard, like the keyboard switches, if you know what I mean. It's just like you sit at the computer and you just use what you're given. So yeah, the ones I'm using at the moment are Browns, the Cherry MX Browns, in a Philco Magistouch. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, a Magistouch 2. 10 keyless. It's probably this very one, actually. Apparently, I last looked at this site last Feb. Okay, so maybe that's when I bought it. Actually, it's not the blank one. It's the. I mean, it doesn't make any difference, but it's like Philco. It's not the Ninja either. It is the 10 keyless. It's the UK. Yeah, this is the guy. Lots of them in stock. And I also have some cool. In fact, I could probably try and show you it. Just flip it around. I've got some Tux keys for the logo, for the super thingamajig. And actually, hang on a minute. Let me just see if I can actually see what I'm showing you. So yeah, right. So I've got this little dude there. That's a super key. Sorry, it's a bit out of focus. And up at the top, I don't know if you can see that at all. I can't make that out actually. But that's like, I'll give you the link to it. It's like a analog clock basically. Actually, can I just see where I've actually gone on this site? That'd be easiest. I mean, the art accessories, yeah. So I've got the penguin logo. I've got this thing here. And I've also got I'm not exactly sure what they'd call it, so I might just have to look. I mean, yeah, like I say, it's an analog clock, so it's like, yeah, so these guys are, so there's like 12 hours in a day, right? 12 hours. There's 12 hours on an analog clock, on a 12-hour analog clock, right? On a traditional analog clock. And there's 12 F keys, so I just got this thing for those. 420, yeah, was that for the Tux thing? I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, they're cool. I always like to get that kind of stuff. 12 hours a day, cheers mate. Yeah, like, before I got this desktop, and also before I think I got well, actually maybe the laptop that I had before this had like customized super keys, but definitely this little little netbook that I had sort of Linux style super keys, and I just sort of like having that. You know, I prefer like not advertising for a company that I'm not actually using, as you end up having to do when you're using a keyboard that has Windows, you know, the Windows logo on the super key. You know, that's what you're essentially doing, isn't it? I mean, the same applies. Like, I guess if you got like a laptop, like Apple Mac books, they have like the logo on the lid, don't they? So you essentially, when you're using one of those, you're essentially advertising for those guys. And I just sort of, you know, if I'm not going to be using a Mac, I prefer not to advertise for them. Basically, I mean, I barely even advertise for Arch, actually, frankly, because you can't really see here what operating system I'm actually on. I mean, you can see up here the kernel is Arch, so you can sort of see that, but it's not really prominent. And somebody who didn't know that Arch Linux was a Linux distribution, they could just see Arch and think, well, Arch 1, that sort of sounds like it's an architecture, maybe. So it's not really advertising. And then I do have this, though. So that's about as far as I go in terms of that. Yeah. What did Ronald Reagan once say? Approximately 80% of our air pollution stems from hydrocarbons released by vegetation. So let's not go overboard in setting and enforcing tough emission standards from man-made sources. I mean, %80 of our air pollution stems from hydrocarbons released by vegetation. Okay, vegetation in what form, right? Is it like vegetation in coal form, or yeah, it would be coal, wouldn't it? In what form and under what processing? Ronald Reagan. Arch one members custom handmade architecture. Yeah, that's it. Just borrow some nail polish from my wife to pluck out the key. Yeah, there is that option. Yeah. Yeah. So where were we? Yeah. So I've got this book here. So this is something to do related to Brexit. It's not actually about Brexit. It's about Trump, but yeah, I think somebody on Twitter just sort of mentioned this as a part of a conversation on Brexit. So yeah, tell you what, let's continue with this. Continue with it, and also leaving the list stuff for now. Let's do that, and let's pull in the other stuff that we actually need for each project. Let's just get a way to do that. So currently we've got the idea here. Project equals risky. So project is essentially these things up here, right? And these are like the project IDs. That's what they're called. Then we've got the titles. Title, risky business. Title is the second field here. So that's this dude here. Third one along is the day. So what this means is essentially it's how they appear, isn't it? It's how they appear in the search. Well, so So Coad has got nothing at the front, right? I like how confusing this looks. I can show you that they are different. Like down here, you can see they are different URLs. Coad 22, 23, and 24. But 2.8 must have been a long chapter. Cinera was just like spread it over 3 episodes. But you can see that Coad here, it just has the title, and that should marry up in here. Yeah, you can see for Coad, there's nothing in the day area. Well, there's nothing in this field here. However, if you look at Risky Business, they all get the day thingamajig. Right, so basically what that does, it tells the thing, it tells Cinera to, if you look down in this area here where the links are, that says risky 000, right? But in the actual search, in the actual the text up here, it says day 000. So all that thing does here, it just replaces it just replaces this. It replaces the product ID in the file name, in the incoming file name, or even in the output file name actually, with the specified word. In our case, it's day. Let's just see what I actually call that in the product info struct. Right, I call that the unit. Unit numbering scheme, medium, alt URL prefix. Yeah, okay. So basically what we're talking about is saying this. Let's just stick them all in. Unit, day, numbering scheme. It's a little bit weird that that's going to be a string, because linear itself is actually going to be, it's going to be a kind of a keyword that's kind of provided. I mean, not a keyword as such, it's going to be a value that's provided by Cinera. So, I don't know. I don't know whether it'd be more appropriate to just have it like that. Yeah, that's a question actually. Let's just note that. Should built-in, I mean, the kind of built-in values really. I mean, having said that, you could also, you know, to make it easy, to make it less arduous to remember. Yeah, unfortunately, the way that that's getting formatted is that loses the. Well, is that just because of, what's that because of? I mean, could be because, yeah, it's kind of because of my terminals highlighting URL selection thing. Does that happen with Patreon, this thing? Yeah, for some reason. I think it's just seeing that. Oh, it's because it's looking as a comment. Oh shit! Right, that's what's going on. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if you could make it so that strings just don't need to be quoted. I also haven't specified this support Patreon anywhere, which is another thing that would need to happen. And that's, I mean, this icon itself is going to be provided by Cinera, so it's kind of like, well, you know, do we have a built-in value for that, or do we just sort of let people sort of specify the file name? Because basically, right, the way that we do this at the moment is like this support icons, and all it is just the file name, right, which is going to be, I mean, somebody who's using the thing could actually rename it if they want to, but this is the file name that gets provided by Cinera. You know, so we could conceivably have, in the same way that we could have, well, that we're going to have this linear value as a built-in thing, we could conceivably have this thing here as a built-in as well. Well, let's do that as another consideration. Consider built-in values. Do you see what I'm saying though? Because like, I mean, the alternative is just like doing this sort of an idea. Right, icon equals Patreon, and then like the file name is equal to this, right? And then when you do this here, support icon, instead of doing that, you actually say Patreon, right? And this thing looks up into this. But, you know, as I'm saying, if we're providing this file, like, if we're providing this file and we don't have a built-in value for it, then everybody who wants to use it are going to have to configure the damn thing. So like everybody's configurations are going to have this icon equals Patreon, file name equals this in their thing, aren't they? Which just feels super silly, really, when it's something that we could conceivably provide. I mean, we could sort of have it. Yeah, we could have it so that if somebody wants to do this idea here, icon Patreon file name is equal to that, then it overwrites the built-in icon. You could do that, couldn't you? So we do have a built-in for Patreon, and it is that file name, because that's what we provide. But if they want to change the file name for some reason, they can just do that. You know, and then when we do the support icon thing here, we're actually using this thing that has been specified. I mean, I think that seems okay to me. And also, if we're going to be doing it like that, then it probably makes sense that it is okay for, in the same way that we're saying here, right? Owner is equal to Miotatsu in double quotes, because we have put person equals Miotatsu in double quotes. You know, this is a thing that somebody has set in their configuration. So it kind of makes sense that it's quoted because they've set it themselves. It's double quote. It's it's quoted, and this thing here also is quoted, so it's the same. We could have the same story up here because people can do the icon. Can set the icon. They could. They could then, when they cite it, they have the double quote again, like that. It's possible multiple supporting. It isn't at the moment, no. That's another thing we need, actually. Someone wants to have Patreon and PayPal me and a Bitcoin address. Yeah, exactly, you're right. Yeah, you bang on. That's a damn good point, actually. Yeah. Fancy. So, you'd probably have to do something like this, actually. Right, so that thing will pull in the icon. So support equals Patreon. I mean, you could conceivably say that the icon of a support thing will actually just equal Patreon, right? So you don't actually need to set it. You just do this. And then if you have got your PayPal Me, then you have your PayPal Me, whatever it would be, and then up here you'd have another icon for PayPal Me, and that's like I don't know. I mean, I'm just sort of thinking if you don't provide it yourself. We probably should specify that something has to be a sprite, I think, just to make it easier to actually handle it all. So even if even if both parts of it are the same, you still have to make it as a sprite. Just to save us having to do a bit more logic to handle whether or not it's a sprite. Because then it's like, well, how do you actually say that it is a sprite? Also, I know that these are just icons, but I mean, could it make sense? That you say it like this. Oops. Right, so if it's at the top level, or should I say it another way? If it's not within the person scope, then the support is considered to be well, actually, so this isn't going to apply to anybody because there's nobody, it's not in anybody's scope. So maybe the way that you actually interpret this is that whenever you see the support equals Patreon within a person, the idea is that because we've set it up here, it automatically gets set, the icon automatically gets set because of this, right? We could, however, conceivably in here allow you to just overwrite the icon if you want. I mean, I think that sounds kind of reasonable, actually. And it sounds reasonable and consistent, I think. I mean, in the same way that under here, right, in the Project Risky, you've got the owner as Miyatatsu. When you go down the scopes, right, when you go down into the project scope, since this owner up here is set as Miyatatsu, you're essentially saying that it's essentially a shorthand for doing all of this, right? Because it propagates down, and we know that each project needs to have an owner. We wouldn't call this thing here owner because Miyotatsu isn't really the owner of this instance per se. You know, it makes sense for this to be just a person. A person who can be cited, who can be referenced kind of here. And then they themselves can have multiple supports. Yeah, I think that seems reasonable, I think. I mean, you'd probably end up writing it like that, wouldn't you? I mean, you could get even more fancy and say this. Could you do that? And then if you do that, you just do support equals Patreon, and it just knows to go up to this, pull in that, right? So if the person's username on Patreon it just happens to be the same as their username in Cinera, you can just do that. I don't see why that can't be a problem. Yeah, I think that seems reasonable. Do you see what I did though about you know, when I collapsed all that stuff down though? I ended up with this, didn't I? Which wasn't semicolon ended, didn't end in a semicolon. So I had to add that for consistency. I think we had that consideration, don't we? Yeah, to semicolon or not to semicolon. And obviously, like I was saying, if you need to overwrite something, then you just go in and you just sort of say, you know, URL is equal to whatever it needs to be. But it'd still apply the icon. So you could zero out the icon if you wanted to. Yeah, let's go with that. I could have used it here as well. But let us keep it separate, just so we can sort of see the differences that you can actually set these things. I don't know if this is actually Mio's PayPal either, by the way. Oh right, yeah, that was it, wasn't it? It was the built-inness as well. Should built-in values linear? Yeah, right. So I was halfway through writing that, wasn't I? So this was the built-in. I mean, it's still a value, isn't it? E.g. linear. Cinera specific. Or actually, it's like should stuff like the support icons, file names, be considered built-in at all? And I think we were sort of saying yeah, weren't we? Obviously, we need to document that somewhere. Come with a file name, you know, corresponding to the actual file that we provide. However, they'll be overwritable as the user wants. Yeah, that seems reasonable to me, I think. And cheers very much to Saf for mentioning that. Because that totally fallen off my radar. Oh, support isn't right. Subprogram multiple sub. I think I did make a note of it years and years ago, but completely forgot. Yeah, so we've got those things in now. We just added the unit, didn't we? And the numbering scheme linear. That was part of this set off a whole line of thought, didn't it? This linear thing. And I think maybe just for consistency, and also just cause it kind of makes it get syntax highlight, like automatically. I think maybe we just make it so it's still, we just keep the consistency of strings are just double quoted. I think let's just go with that as the rule. So we did the unit is day, number scheme is linear, and then we have the default medium. Okay. Now if you can see here, 3 of them are research, 1 of them is programming, and 1 of them is speech, right? So what I suggest we do is we say, there we go. That might answer our question actually. If we just say that it's if it is just the syntax of C, then you automatically get the indenting. I know it's a bit of a weird sort of thing to be guided by, because it's not actually C that we're writing, it's a config file. But I don't know, it's kind of I guess it's kind of a bit of a shortcut actually. That's fine, isn't it? For some reason that's getting indented okay. Without that, I mean, that's still a question, isn't it? So that's a question we need to answer ourselves. We need to take the responsibility. Got to take the bull by the horns and actually decide whether we want equals or not. But yes, default medium. Default. So the default medium for most of them is going to be research. Right, so that will propagate down through all of the projects. Unless they've set it themselves, which Handmade Hero, which Risky Business is going to have to do. So Risky Business is programming, and miscellaneous. Where's the next guy down? Is speech, right? Now also, if you see what I'm sort of driving at, well, encountering here, research, programming, and speech. Where do those things come from? They come from up here, right? So these things need to be configured. So let's do that. But first, let me just put some more music on because Thimbleweed Park has just finished. Let's see if there's anything released on this day. There's nothing released on this day. Oh, hang on a minute. I spelled that wrong. Right, so we've got J Dilla's Donuts and Asailoni, Magnificent City. Let's go with Donuts. I mean, I don't think I've got this in FLAC, but 320 is fine. So yeah, I've got a support person. So the thing to think about is forward declaration, essentially. Like, do we need to have, do we need to have put these guys, specified the support thing here before having used it in here? That's something to think about. Well, it's kind of like, do we want is it order independent declarations? Is that what you call it? in which case we need to do like 2 passes over it. But for the case of the media, we only need to make sure that we specify before the project, if we don't have order independent declarations, that is. So I guess the same way that we've done the person Miyatachi, we just do medium like this. Is there any reason for any of these to be built-ins? I don't think there is, because it's only like there's no files needed. At least there aren't yet any files needed. It's just icons which you can set yourself. Maybe we can just document some recommended ones. Then people can just use what they need. Also, the thing about the propagating down scopes, we could conceivably initialize this medium here. Oops. We could conceivably initialize it here. If we feel like that would help us at all, essentially. And then it would propagate down. Let's leave it out here for now, though. Although we will want to. Well, actually, it's only hammered. It's still in risky business. We will need to. You see this here. There's potentially make this written name configurable per project. We'll want to be able to set this differently for Hamid Hero and for risky business. Similarly to the blackboard. But yeah, let's continue and just say so that icon's going to be that, and then name it's just that. We do need the research at least. Yeah, right. Let's just pull them all in. And then we need to do, what's the final thing? We just need this, right? I'm probably going to lose that note, aren't I? Yeah. Okay. Now I know that formatted that quite nicely like that, but I'm now just going to do this. Right. That is different from what I started off with, isn't it? So yeah, for this, right? Oops. I mean, it's kind of interesting that we could actually change this to be whiteboard, but I think it'd be easier for me in terms of writing this stuff if there's just one of them. So like it's always blackboard, but it gets displayed differently depending on what project it is. And in game down there for run will be more in app. That'd be more appropriate for risky business. I mean, some of these could probably go actually. Like Owl of Shame. Mia doesn't have an Owl of Shame because he never does anything shameful. So that could go. He does have a hat. I don't think he's used any media clips, so that could conceivably go as well. I mean, there's no harm in them. There's no harm in them existing here, so they could just stay. I mean, in the spirit of this whole thing, you could then actually say, out here, the default medium could just be plonked out here, and that applies to all the people down here. But I think let's keep it under risky. And also, you know what? Whether there was 3. This book club doesn't actually exist anymore, so it's only these. It's only 2. So that was the media, and then this thing here. This is like it's the alt URL prefix, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, let's keep it. I was thinking of getting rid of it in favour of using the new output attribute in the video nodes. But no, let's keep it. I mean, it's empty for risky business anyway, so it doesn't really. We're not going to use it here. but we will need to handle it. Yeah, let's leave it like that. Let's try and just replicate. Let's try and replicate Risky Business as we need it to be. So we've done Risky's project info. We've done the category media. Also, right, if you don't like to see that whole thing like that, you could conceivably just go like that, just stick it all on one line, right? And that should parse correctly. Because all that's going to happen when you get to the end of this is it's going to have to skip new line, skip white space. So it'll do that. And if it's like this, it'll just skip it. If it's like that, it'll skip nothing, right? But that'll be fine because the next token is what it needs anyway. So yeah, that should be okay. So what else do we actually need for Risky? Yeah, we need the output paths and stuff. We've done the support icons, we've done the credentials for Mio. And we've got the idea of multiple support projects, platforms. And the idea of this support thing here propagating down to here. So you don't need to specify the whole lot. You can just use that, and we've also got the idea of variables being used inside here. And if we need to do, we can overwrite any of these fields down here. So yeah, I think that's okay. Let's see what else we need to actually set. Paths, asset root directory. Yeah, let's do these guys here. So the assets root directory, that's essentially going to be, well, actually, the assets root directory / the images directory path / this icon name, file name, is actually where we find that actual thing. Remember, we also need the idea of including. Made a note of that, didn't I? Yeah, including. But let's forget about including just for the moment and just get this other stuff in. So that's a HTML directory. Let's just put them all together, put the directories together. So we've got the let's just say it's like www. And assets root URL. Let's just say for the sake of argument that it's I mean, this is actually where that is. I think. could conceivably sort of say but I'm not 100% sure there's any value in that exactly. Let's leave it separate for now. Unless we have like a... Oops. Right, something like that. So then all your assets are stuffed together, and then you can also have the query string. I think it's just that, isn't it? That's what the well, the default is actually are. Maybe that'd be a nice way of doing it. Yeah, I mean, as you can see here, advanced to the universe may be set for subprocessors as required. Maybe there's no need for this scope actually. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not like you can refer to. There's nothing to refer to here. You know, like in the sense that you can refer to this support, to the Patreon support. You can refer to that here. There's nothing to actually refer to here, so it's kind of like superfluous to have a scope for it. So I think let's get rid of that because there's no need for it. And then call this assets root directory. Just so it's a bit, just so it's clearer what it actually is. Yeah, so that's all the paths. Well, it's not all of them, is it? Because we need the output paths as well. So project input paths. The HTML directory. Yep. So it's worth bearing in mind that this guy here is actually relative to this thing. right? Unless you precede it with a forward slash. It's already proceeding, we're starting. Yeah, okay, that seems fine. Then we want the template path, isn't it? Wanted that. Templates dir. Yeah, templates dir. And this is just going to be absolute. Templates directory is that. Right, which we're doing at the root level. Now, I actually do have this situation here where I have a different search template for risky business. Right. I think the player template location is the same for everybody. Actually, no, sorry, that's not true at all. And also, all the search directories, the search templates are all different as well, actually. And they're only different because we don't have the... We don't know... we don't have the idea of like multiple projects, right? So, as you can see here, this thing, Risky Business, has got this styling here because it's just got the current class, right? Right. So this person here has got the current class. Coad doesn't have it. Reader and Risk don't have it either. Because they're not linked up in any way. We can't know. Like, we can't know this whole structure currently. Which means that we need a different template for each thing. Or we need a different template purely just to set current, right? Because this current class is set differently for each person. However, the player is mostly the same. Right. The only difference is... Where is the difference? The difference is here. Right, it's in the home thing. Oh, it's down there actually. It's in this nav down here, right? So this thing needs to have... Essentially, the way this thing works is this part. Well, actually, I think even this is a template tag. This is hard coded. in the risky business one, but in everybody else, this is a template tag, as is this, right? So they can all use the same template. All of which means that we are essentially saying what was the difference? Most of them have got the same player template apart from risky business. Right, but risky business itself uses the, actually it's not that what I wanted to say, template player. Template risky, right? I mean, maybe we'll be able to figure out a way to do that with the same template. Actually, yeah, we should totally be able to do that, shouldn't we? If, I mean, this is the thing, if we add to the template some idea of like conditional logic, you know, you just sort of say, if this person's project ID is risky, then output this stuff here. Otherwise, output whatever the actual project name is. Right, then you've just got the one template. I'm not exactly sure how much value there is in that. Let's put that down as a consideration. And it's not really it's not a config consideration. It's really a templating consideration. So DB template. It's like conditional logic, isn't it? Or if project equals risky, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean that's a whole other line of inquiries into how that template stuff could work, which we actually need to sort out. We just need to sort out just the general, like, how do we communicate to it, sort of hierarchical information. How do we communicate stuff to do with private stuff to do? Yeah, that's what we need to sort that out. So yeah, player template is this in this situation. I mean, but then again, like when we have this project hierarchy stuff, like the search template could conceivably have it could contain a tag, couldn't it? It could contain a tag that is the hierarchical nested list stuff. In which case, you would just set the one search template and everybody uses it. But we don't have that idea yet, do we? So yeah, let's just make everybody use. Let's make everybody use different search templates for now, just because that's what we've got. We've only got that capability. Search template is equal to template. It's also, actually, hang on a minute. It's also this, isn't it? And also, for that matter, could make use of that. Yeah, so it's still using it's still going to be using 4 different projects, 4 different templates, and it's also need support this. It's going to be using 4, but it's just the one line that actually specifies it. And since we're only doing this in one place, we could just stick this whole thing, could just stick this line up at the top. There, I mean that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, okay. Base output directory. So we've already said that we're separating out these. We don't need the scope for those guys. Right, it's likely to be that, isn't it? What's the next thing? The base URL. Base output URL. Yeah, okay. Well, it's essentially this, isn't it? The search location for us . The search location will be the same. It will be basically it'll just be that with the project appended. Right. So that actually turns out to be, well, I mean, in the case of, yeah, I mean, it kind of applies to both of them. So So the idea here is, so long as these are, let's just do that, do another note. To the that seems fine. And I think that's the right setting as well. Because I think the idea is that the search location gets positioned at the actual specified place, and the player location is basically players occur as children at the specified place. So yeah, we're down to these kind of modal things here now. Open search results in the same browser tab. Now there we go. These get highlighted like that. It's true or false could be keywords. Just because of the C highlighting. False doesn't. Or rather capitalised doesn't. And these will come with defaults as well, so they'll probably all be off by default, I think. Single browser tab false. Force integration with an incomplete template. How can you say that concisely? Also, should we even still have this mode? Let's do the other ones. Ignore privacy status. Quit sync we're going to remove. Force quote cache rebuild. Did we make a note to think about that? Consider removing, yeah, down here. Log level. Now I think we want some actual keywords for this. So let's just say. Now the thing is, these are going to be probably strings, aren't they? Oh, actually, we've got them, haven't we? Yeah. So what have we got? Emergency alert, critical error warning, notice, informational debug. So what is the default log level? The default is emergency, apparently. Okay, so that's the lowest verbosity. Also, is that ever used at all? So I appreciate that that's there. So it's used in one place, And the log error function actually where's it logging to? It's logging to errors log. So it does exist. It does work, does it? Interesting. I thought this wasn't even doing anything. The directory cache directory errors.log. What? Are you telling me there's no errors? When should that have triggered? Max identifier reached. The cache directory. So we've definitely got the cache directory set. Right, because we use that for the quotes. It's the least terse version. That's why. Yeah. So this should be log error, log emergency. And log error says if the log level is greater than or equal to the past log level. So yeah, it should have logged some errors. Surely. There's quotes. There are these guys. Maybe I just haven't had any errors since I last cleared this directory, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, log level. That's the default, so let's just stick it as that. And then the update interval. And then we've got our first number. Right, so we just pass numbers. And yeah, I think with that might be the whole format, actually. We had to think about the quote cache rebuild, didn't we? In fact, we do need a way. So if you look at this, I think yeah, let's just answer these questions and then let's call it here. Just say that this format is what we want, and then next time just go ahead and start the parser. Oh, also we do need to think about these things as well, don't we? Quote seeker, we're definitely removing that. The no cache option. So no cache is used in one place. So all this does is, it just says, every single time you need to, write a quote, if no cache is set, then fetch the quotes. Otherwise, only ever fetch them. Oh, hold on a minute. Your config edition is not edition single. And the current time, take away the. Okay, and it's an hour. If it's an hour since you last fetched. This feels like something that the user shouldn't have to be bothering to configure, really. Kind of feels like this should be something that we could do more systemically. Essentially, what I mean is, we probably want a way to well, I mean, we really want to be able to get told by Insobot when a quote changes, really, because that's essentially what we're talking about. That's the crux of the problem of here. I think the point of the no cache is that it just makes sure that the quote is always the right quote. Because I mean the situation here is like, I'm writing a set of annotations, and I use a quote node. So Cinera then pulls in the quote. I then see that the quote is slightly wrong because when he's editing, I go and edit the quote on Insobot, but Cinera doesn't actually pick up on it because it's got the cache, so it just keeps using the cached version, which is out of date. The no cache option just says every time you need to generate the quote, just pull the stuff in again. So don't cache it. So do we want that option still? And it's like, well, no, we don't really. Yeah, you want to be able to cache the quotes. You want to be able to cache the quotes, but you also want to be able to keep them up to date. And also part of this whole process here, this config file, and some other changes that I'm going to be doing, part of it is that we just want Cinera to be always running, so the user never needs to bother about it. They just configure it and it just goes. They shouldn't need to restart it to get the new config in, because that'll be hot reloading. They shouldn't need to restart it to change a template, because a template change will trigger a not regeneration, but just a trigger an edit of the stuff. So really, it'd be like, with that in mind, if Cinera is always going to be on, then once they've set the thing, once they've set their option, then that's just what they're stuck with. And we don't want them to have to be not caching the quotes, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of inclined to remove the no cache option. But in order to remove the no cache option, I will need a way to figure out if a quote has changed and if a quote is stale. Which I guess I could do. You do a periodic pull-in of the quotes. You do the periodic pull-in and then you compare. Well, compare your stored version of the quote against the new one. Unless rather than that, actually, we store in our database everywhere a quote is used in the HTML file. Mind if a quote gets deleted? How do you actually make sure that the whole thing gets deleted? I guess in that case then you regenerate the file. Oh, mind you, but if you regen, then if you regen the file, then it's going to complain that you couldn't find the quote if it's been deleted. In which case it would need to alert somebody to actually just go into the file and sort of go into the file and remove that node. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Let's leave it for now. Let's leave that question for now and focus on just getting the parser, really, because that's all we need. We just wanted to nail down the actual nail down the syntax so we could start on the parser. We can make these kinds of decisions such as no cache at a later date. Yeah, how long have we been going? We're going for an hour and 45. God, I feel knackered, honestly. So I think I'm going to call it there. And pick up on this tomorrow, when we will answers some of these questions, we also have figured out now that we don't have any more scopes than project-based ones, haven't we? This support thing is a compound type. Right, there's going to be no support. There's going to be no scoping within Patreon. No scoping within person. Well, there is this thing here. But what I basically mean is there's no people within people. There's no support within supports. There's no medias. There's no media within media. So the only thing where we've got something within itself, we've got a project within a project. The only case where we've got that is with the projects. So yes, I think we have answered that question. Do we need any other types of scopes than project-based one? It's like, well, no, we don't. I think we don't. This semicolon, these questions here, still haven't exactly answered. Although, have we, actually? I think we kind of have, actually. We've answered... Yeah, we have, because we wanted the syntax highlighting to work. The indenting. Equals or not. Syntax highlighting does work without the equals. It's still an open question, that. So the keyword will not add a value. That was just for the lists, to end the list. I think that was still a question, wasn't it, as to whether we even have the notion of a list. So I don't know. Because to simplify, removing the idea of, yeah, title lists, exactly. Should build a value linear be surrounded with double quotes? I think the answer was yes, wasn't it? Built-in bools needn't be, though. Should they be considered built at all? Yes, I think we were saying they should be. The real world was these once, and we've already said that built-in values should be surrounded with double quotes, so that's covered by that. And then order independent declarations. Want to think about that? Yeah. Okay. So this config is 200 lines long. I mean, a lot of it actually is just fake stuff, so it's not going to be that long. And there's comments as well. Well, I think we've got ways of making it more concise, haven't we? You don't need to explicitly sort of say for every person that they use this icon, this URL. You know, you can use variables and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it there. I'm getting really sleepy for some reason. Sure won't be asleep for hours, but yeah, let's call it there. Let's look at the questions again tomorrow, and then let's look at tokenizing and parsing it. The actual good stuff. So yeah, thank you very much here at Cinera for tuning in and for being fantastic. Safa reminded me about the multiple support links. Yeah, that is all. Thank you very much. Farewell for now.